So one other quick step we'll do is to add a delete button next to each of these so that we can delete whichever one of these entries we want. So click delete next to pull weeds and then it'll delete that. So if we go into our app and just in list.js and add button delete. So now it added some delete buttons, and ideally we'd want them to the right of the entry rather than underneath it, also depending on how it's laid out, which in a different video we'll get into the details of making a good layout for this, but in order to just get the delete button to be near the entry, we're going to do that in its own CSS file. So we're creating a file for list.css. And in our list.js, we're going to import list.css. First, we need to give this div right here a class name. So let's call this task. And then we'll edit the layout of task using CSS Flexbox. So each of these is going to be its own flex. We'll use CSS Flexbox to get the delete button to the right. Let's do display flex. Let's see what that does. Yeah, it did something weird where it took everything to the right of here, but we can easily fix that. Flex, direction, row. I think the default is actually flex direction row. But in order to get this all to not be to the left right here, in list.js, let's change this to, let's add a class name to this div. So class name equals task list. And we'll also have the task list, which is this entire thing. That'll be display flex as well. But in this case, it's going to be flex, direction, column, because we want them all to be on top of each other rather than being to the side of each other like what we saw in the previous error. And for now, align items center, and that brings everything to the center. Whether we use align or whether we use justify for vertical or horizontal depends on whether it's row or column. But in column, if we want it to be horizontally to the center, then that's when we use align items to the center. So yeah, we've got an okay layout right here in terms of just having our list of tasks and our delete button right here. But one last thing we'll do is add some flexibility to our, or add some functionality to our delete button. So now we need to program the functionality of these delete buttons in order to make it so that if we click delete, it's actually going to get rid of wash car, or it's actually going to get rid of pull weeds. Because right now the delete button's just there, but it's not actually doing anything. So we're going to go into list.js where this button is, and ultimately create a function for handle delete. And then this button is going to have an on click for handle delete. And let's have it accept item dot task name for now. So it's going to input item.taskName into this variable for task name right here. We do need to go into to-do slice and add our delete to-do function into here, because then we're going to dispatch it into list like what we did with our add to-do function. So we're going to do state.filter return state.filter item.task name is not equal to action.payload.task name. Then we export this delete to do here. And then import it into our list.js. And we also have to import use dispatch into here. And setting up all this functionality just like what we did in our form component. So then dispatch dispatching to delete the task name of whatever task name we're given into here, which is this value right here. It looks like it reloaded and got rid of a few of our list items, but let's just put pull weeds into here and see if that worked. Yeah, it looks like it worked. Yes, that's how you program the delete function, by having its own function and having its own reducer in Redux, then importing it into here. So yeah, that's what we'll do for now, and then probably get to CSS next. One last thing to do here actually is to just add the checkbox here so that when the task is completed we can mark it off, and that's very simple. We'll just simply go into list